Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode is designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. It's a rainy Sunday morning here on the 3-day Memorial Day weekend. I'm sipping my coffee. I'm here with you, and we're going to talk about masturbation. You know, one of the beautiful parts about running a podcast where I share so openly about all aspects of my life, including some of the challenges I've had in my life navigating my sexual energy, is that you feel comfortable to bring to me the questions that you can't bring anywhere else, or you don't feel comfortable bringing anywhere else. And one of the most frequent questions I get asked from men is, should I be taking a temporary break from jerking off? And this actually came up recently in one of our masterminds where one of the guys in the group decided to take a break. And there are a few others of us, myself included, who were each of us actually doing the same thing in our own little private worlds. And we decided to bring it together and have a conversation about it. So we're going to have a conversation in this episode that's going to cover 3 main topics. Number 1, how do I know if I should be taking a break from masturbation temporarily? Number 2, what are the benefits of giving a temporary hiatus a go? And I've written down 5 of those benefits. And then number 3, if I'm going to do it, how do I do it? How do I structure that time off so that I can learn something, I can succeed at it, I don't give into temptation? So we're going to cover each of those areas. Now, before we dive in, I want to really set the context here. Over the course of the last 11 years of doing my own inner work and then also teaching this stuff over the last 5, I have seen that there are 3 major powerful energies that sabotage most men, right? These are 3 energies that are big energies that show up in various forms that most men have never trained to deal with and sabotage us in many areas of our life. The energies of fear, the energies of anger, and sexual energy. I think most of us get the fear and the anger energies, and I've done a number of episodes on that. But let's talk about this potent life force of sexual energy. You guys know what it's like to feel sexual energy in your body at such an extreme that it's almost overpowering, right? Like that urge, that impulse surges inside of you and you just need to get it out. It's almost like too big for you to hold, right? And if we look at the men that we admire most, the men that we admire most have learned, have trained to deal with potent life force energies like fear, like anger. Sexual energy, we don't really have a lot of role models for that. But the guys who have been able to harness their own power, find a center, and actually to build their capacity to deal with these major emotions, this major energy inside, we admire those guys. They can sit in the eye of the storm, especially when it comes to the energies of fear and anger. These are the guys that can handle crisis situations, tough conversations, conflict, chaos. And a lot of that can translate when we're talking about sexual energy. Now, Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich writes a fascinating chapter on why most men never succeed until the age of 40. And the reason is because most men have not learned how to harness the power of their sexual energy. And in fact, waste most of the first 4 decades of their lives chasing tail. Building their whole life around how to get sex, how to become more sexually desirable. And a part of that is even your own private uses of sexuality through masturbation. I was a guy for most of my life who jerked off minimum once a day, right? For the first 30 years of my life before I entered Sex Addicts Anonymous, I was a 2 to 3 times a day type of guy. Especially had to jerk off before I went to sleep. I was the kind of guy, it was my sleeping pill. Could not let go of the anxiousness, the frustration without jerking off before I went to bed. And there was a certain kind of a dullness, a numbness that I walked around with in life because anytime I felt the impulse, the urge that came up inside of me, I had to get it out as quickly as possible. And then when I trained that way, it just became second nature. Oh, there's a little bit of, ammo. I'm just going to jerk it off, get it out. And I didn't even think twice about it. And because I lived my life that way, I didn't even realize the numbness, the dullness that I was walking around with. It just became my new normal, my baseline. Now where I sit today, it's very different, right? I have a sense of aliveness, and I don't want to jump the gun here because I want to share with you the benefits of taking some of that time off. But I have, what I'm about to share with you is coming from 8 years of experimenting with long periods of time off of masturbation. Like when I entered Sex Addicts Anonymous, I took a period of 4 years off of masturbation to bringing masturbation back into my life. And then since taking temporary hiatuses and what I've learned. So I'm going to be unpacking all of that stuff for you based on my own experience and then what other men have shared in taking some of their own experiments. So let's get into this first section around how do I know if I should take a temporary hiatus? I think the number one thing you should be paying attention to is if you are even asking the question, should I be taking some time off, is probably a strong indicator that, maybe an experiment with taking some time off is a worthwhile endeavor. Because masturbation is one of the most pleasurable feelings, one of the most pleasurable, enjoyable things that you could possibly experience inside of your own body. And if you have come to question whether you should take some time off, it probably lends some insight into the fact that maybe it's tipped over from something pleasurable into something problematic, right? Just even the thought of entertaining the question of taking the break is probably validating enough that maybe there are more net negative effects right now than positive, and that you could benefit from doing at least a temporary experiment of holding off for a period of time. That's the number one indicator. I think the second indicator is if you started to feel a sense of distance, if you are in a romantic partnership, if you have started to feel a sense of distance between you and your partner, right? There's some secrecy. They don't know about your masturbation habits. If you are starting to feel it's more enjoyable to just go and whack one off than it is to have to take the extra step of courting your partner and maybe having foreplay and then maybe even finding the time for the both of you to sync up, especially if you have kids. I know that is a huge challenge for the men in our communities who have partners and spouses. But if you're starting to find that you're taking that easy way out because you can get it done in 2 minutes in the bathroom, and there's no judgment here, right? There's no judgment. Then there's no reason for you to judge yourself if that's the habit you've fallen into, because life can be challenging. You've got needs, right? You've got desires. You want to feel good. But if that's become the default and you find yourself distant and drifting from your partner, that's a challenge. If you are also starting to find that as you are walking through life and you see a beautiful person, right? Whoever you're into, right? I don't know your sexual orientation, but if you see a beautiful person and your body doesn't respond to that, if your cock doesn't respond to that because you have drained yourself, that's probably an indicator that, whoa, maybe you are on E and probably should allow your tank to refill. And so those are some of the key indicators there that maybe it's time to give it a go. And I would say the last one, this is quite simple. If you've never taken an intentional break, if you haven't done an experiment where you've gone beyond the point of discomfort, maybe like you've taken a day off here, 2 days here, and it maybe hasn't been intentional. If you've never said, you know what, I'm going to take some time off and I'm going to go past the point that feels doable. Like if you think about taking 3 days off and you're like, yeah, I could do that. But a week? Ooh. If you've never, ever experimented with that, then this is the time. And what I will say is, and I've shared this story a number of times, but I don't know where you're jumping in on this show. When I took the 4 years off in Sex Addicts Anonymous, I took 4 years off of masturbation, off of porn, and there was also this 11-month period where I was celibate. I didn't have a partner. I wasn't having sex either. That was one of the most revolutionary periods of time in my life. In that 11-month period, because I had all this sexual energy in my body and I had to learn how to deal with it, I, at that point in time, decided that I was going to leave a 15-year corporate career, making lots of good money in financial services, and then to start this. Because all of that energy I had to go somewhere. It wasn't going into a Kleenex anymore. You know, like that energy had to be put to use. And guys, what you need to understand is if you strip away the sexual label on this energy, like the sexual energy that you feel, if you just strip away the sexual energy, at its core, it's energy. It's creative energy. It's life force energy. Sexual energy gives, like when partnered with a partner of the opposite sex, creates human life. At its very nature, sexual energy is creative energy, life force energy. So when that energy isn't being put to sexual use, it can be put to creative use. Creative in the gym, creative in poetry, or creative in written word, or creativity in building your business. I chose, instead of dissipating that energy into a Kleenex, to say, well, maybe this thing about becoming an entrepreneur can actually become a reality. And it was during that 11-month period where I made the decision that I was going to leave that 15-year corporate career and do what I'm doing today. You can see that this energy, this sexual energy, if we can expand our capacity to handle it, to hold it, and then also to understand its power inside of our body without being triggered by it or devoured by it or stampeded by it, but instead to learn how to harness it, make it work for us, at least in my case, changed my fucking life. What could it do for you? So let's get into the 5 benefits of giving this temporary hiatus. I'm not talking about taking 4 years off. I'm talking maybe taking 3 days off, 7 days off, 21 days off, whatever's worked for you. Right now, I'm on 30 days of abstinence for masturbation. And what I can tell you right now, boy, am I magnetic. Holy shit. Like people just seem to be attracted to me because I'm vibrating at such a high vibe level. Like there's an energy. Like this is not one of I haven't written down this particular benefit, or actually I have. So, I'm going to pause on it. I'll get to it in a few moments. Let me go in order here that I've written this thing down. So one of the key benefits, the first benefit I've written down of giving a temporary hiatus a go is, number 1, you will learn very quickly what your triggers are that send you into the masturbation cycle. If you have never taken a break and you just kind of jerk off, it kind of happens, it's part of your daily ritual, then you don't really know what are the triggers that lead you to just sitting down unconsciously and drifting into the next whack-off session. My coach from years ago, John O'Connor, once said, I don't know why I do what I do until I stop doing it. I love that. Whether it's with jerking off or drinking caffeine or eating sugar or binge watching television, I've always used these hiatus periods to kind of see what are the triggers that lead me to the following step that leads to the problematic behavior that I wish to change. And what I found when I took time off of masturbation was like, oh, it's always like some weak feeling inside of me that leads to jerking off, like boredom, loneliness, frustration, anxiety. Oh man, I'm overwhelmed by my work. Oh shit, I'm at a deficit internally. Like I've been busting my ass. I haven't taken a break. I haven't done anything joyful that fills my tank. And then I would go to jerking off. So you will very quickly find what your triggers are. And then when you know your triggers, you can either decide to use a different behavior when you're triggered, or you will create life circumstances where you are triggered less. That's where I started to get really clear on like, wow, if I have a morning routine, if I have an evening routine, if I do meditation, if I do breath work, then I'm triggered less, then I'll stop masturbating, then I'll stop these problematic behaviors. Guys, you can see how you can change your fucking life with this level of awareness. Benefit number 2, you get to reset your nervous system. when you take a break from this like jerk off spiral that you've been on, you get to reset your nervous system. One of the guys in our group who decided to take a temporary hiatus found that his masturbation was coupled with pornography. For a lot of guys, that's the deal. It's pornography and masturbation go hand in hand. And when you watch porn so relentlessly, you start to develop unrealistic expectations. Real human bodies don't feel quite as arousing. You need some crazy stimulation, or you need to pornify your partner in order to get aroused. You have to think about porn when you're having sex with your partner in order to get off. You get to reset your nervous system. It's kind of like detoxing in like with food. Like if you've been eating junk food, if you've been eating too much sugar, drinking too much caffeine, when you take the time off, then your body, it goes through a temporary withdrawal period, but you get to clean out that fucking gunk in your system. One of the things that I found, and this was fascinating for me, and I found this out only recently, is when I have sex, when I have intimacy with a partner, the energy in my body is really nourishing. It's generative. It feels good. It feels clean. But the way I learned to masturbate, this was fascinating. Like 30 years ago when I discovered masturbating, I would do this thing, and this is going to get really graphic, but I would like rub the part of my dick that's like, I guess, I don't know even, I wish I had like the scientific names of it, but I would rub the skin on the underside of my dick, like really hard, like in a flaccid state. I would rub it hard until my dick got hard. And this energy would flow inside of my body that would feel like junk food. I don't know how to explain this in a better way, guys, but like the energy in my body wasn't the same clean energy as if I were having sex with a partner. It was almost like this frenetic, needy, fiendy kind of energy that once it got into my body, it felt titillating. It felt exhilarating, kind of like if I were watching nasty porn or eating junk food. But once it was in there, if I didn't ejaculate it, it felt toxic in my system. Excuse me. And then when that happened, I would need more of it. And then I would need more of it. And I found like myself going down the spiral. And I'm like, wow. When I touch myself in that way, it triggers this cascade of negativity inside my system, this like junk food energy. And I realized it's because when I developed that habit, it was to get out of these tense, anxious, lonely feelings I had when I was a young teenager. And I carried that behavior, that ritual forward. So when I stop doing that, it resets my nervous system. And I get to choose now at this point, like, how do I want to touch myself? What do I want to fantasize to? And then when I do that, then I get to feel the clean energy again. So the guys who are taking the breaks right now, who are not watching porn, get to reset their nervous system and do it a better way. Benefit number 3, you will get to build your life force energy, your chi. Now, here's the thing, guys. Like, I've talked to a lot of guys who said, yeah, I've taken a temporary hiatus, I've taken some breaks. I can't fully feel the difference of like that energy that's in my body. You got to pay attention more closely. David Deida says, like, when you are constantly ejaculating, there's a spiritual dullness that you walk around life with. I have developed and honed in on my awareness, my self-awareness and my mindfulness practice. I have felt this and seen this acutely. When I'm jerking off and ejaculating all the time, I notice that when I listen to music that I love, it doesn't hit as deeply. When I see something beautiful, it doesn't register, it doesn't resonate. Things that would make me laugh hard or cry seem to be muted. The beauty of nature doesn't seem to overwhelm me as much. Watching a cute kid eat an ice cream cone and have it dribble all over his face, I can intellectually be like, that's cute, and I don't feel it inside. These are the many, many subtle ways that letting that life force energy go dulls the rest of your life. And this is where I was about to get into before. Like, now that I have had 30 days of building this life force energy inside of me, this chi, I'm a fucking magnet. A magnet. When I walk around the city, and when I walk around the gym, and I'm just like bubbling with awareness. Everything seems to be crisper. Everything seems to sparkle a little bit more. When I'm vibrating in that state, people naturally gravitate towards me. Women flirt with me more. They talk to me more uninhibited. Like they're the ones breaking the ice. Other people will come up to me and spark conversations. There's more magnetism. Opportunities seem to flow to me more. I did this especially. One of the things that I do before I go into leading a workshop. Last week, I ran the Great Man Mastermind Retreat for 3 nights, 4 days. I wanted all of my life force energy. I wanted my awareness. And the guys in there could fucking feel it. They could feel my keen sense of awareness. They knew I was sharp. I was on it, especially when the days got tired and long and we were exhausted. I was fucking on it. So you get to build that life force energy. Benefit number 4, you now get to direct that energy that you would have dissipated. You get to direct that energy to a human being. So if you're in a partnership, instead of jerking it off into a Kleenex, instead of scattering your energy like a buckshot, you get to bring your energy like a laser beam. And this is for many guys who are in partnership. I'm not in partnership right now. I haven't had sex or intimacy in 3 months, right? It's been a challenge. I've been here before. But it's also, I get to direct that energy to me. That's huge. Like that energy comes back into creating amazing podcasts. This energy comes back into creating the next workshop or retreat, right? For our group of men. If you are in a committed relationship, like one of the men in our masterminds, like, I don't want to be scattering this energy. I want to bring it back to my partner, and I've been scattering it. So when you take a temporary hiatus, it doesn't go to porn. It doesn't go to some porn star. It doesn't go to some Kleenex. It goes to the partner of your choosing. And it could be just you if you're not in a partnership like me. Benefit number 5, you get to be the one who's in command, not that urge. And this is the thing that I felt so empowered by when I took the first 4 years off back in Sex Addicts Anonymous. Was for my whole life, masturbation controlled me. When the urge came up, I had to, quote, I had to release it, had to let it go. It commanded me. It was like wild horses dragging me around, and I felt helpless. Even when it felt good to get the release, there was always a guilt or a shame afterwards. There was always like am I ever going to get my arms around this thing, or am I always going to be the slave? And that felt helpless, because if I could feel that helpless, that powerless in that aspect of my life, it also made me feel like I could be helpless and powerless in other areas of my life. But when I took command of this part of my life and realized that I had the power, I had the control, then these other areas of my life where I felt afraid or I felt angry, I started to take control of that, because this was my number one demon. This was like the most difficult challenge. So if you can learn how to take command of this, you will feel in control, not just of when and how you choose to masturbate, but also these other troubling areas of your life. So then let's bring this to a close by talking about this third component of this episode, which was, well, now that you've chosen to do it, like now you've chosen, like, yes, I want to take a break. How do I do it? Right? How do I take the break? Step number 1 is you have to write out your why for doing this. You need to be very clear on what's your why, right? As Nietzsche says, for a man who knows his why, he can endure any how. And this is going to be a challenge for you. If you are going to take time off that's uncomfortable for you, you need to know why you're doing it. You know, here's a parallel example. We're running a push-up challenge right now for 30 people who are training for 60 days to learn how to do 100 consecutive push-ups. And 36 people signed up. We have 2 key indicators for why 24 people are still doing it and the other 12 have dissipated. Key indicator number 1 is that those 24 people actually wrote out their why statement, why they're doing the push-up challenge. The other 12 didn't. The second is those 24 people have joined an accountability group. So the 2 things that have kept them going, now we're about 40 days into this challenge, 40 days into a 60-day challenge. These 24 people remain because they wrote their why and because they're a part of an accountability group. So I would say for you, how to do it. Number 1, you need to write out your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you fed up with being with dissipating your energy or being a slave to porn? Or who are you doing this for? What do you hope to learn about yourself? Why are you doing it? And step number 2, you can skip this step, but chances are you're making it much harder, more difficult for yourself. Is step number 2 is accountability. Tell a partner, like tell a friend, right? Like ask a buddy if you want to like do this for a 7-day period of time. That may be uncomfortable for you. Come into our Facebook group. There's a bunch of guys. Pop it in there. I guarantee you'll have a few guys who will jump on board on that. I'll link the Facebook group in the show notes. But if you skip the why, if you skip the accountability, I would say you have less than a 25% chance of succeeding. Unless you are a man with extreme discipline, I've just seen it time and time again that very few guys who don't know their why, who don't have accountability, will be able to succeed for any significant length of time. I would say step number 3 is commit to a time period. Don't leave it open-ended. I mean, you could say, listen, I'm going to do this for 7 days. And then if I complete the 7 days and I want to continue going, that's great. But give yourself a specific period of time. I've experimented with everything from 7 days to 21 days. I'm on 30 days now. I've done 4 years. Give yourself a specific period of time that works for you. And then finally, develop a strategy for when you are going to be in those on the edge moments where you want to break your pact with yourself, right? So start to anticipate that there's going to be a time where you get overwhelmed by work or you get stressed out by a conflict you had with your partner, or you're going to have some alone time finally without the kids at home or the wife at home. And you're like, well, this is the time that I get to take for me. If you are truly going to do this right, you have to anticipate those moments and then develop a strategy for how you're going to handle that situation differently. Some strategies I've developed is I use breath work to circulate the energy, or I say I'm going to go call a friend, I'm going to go work out instead, I'm going to scream into a pillow. Like, what are your strategies? Because you don't want to find yourself in that moment without having anticipated it. If you've anticipated already, then you are much more likely to stay the course. So there you guys have it, right? I hope that you have found the courage and like the inspiration to say, I want to do this. I want to take a break. And if you are, please jump into the Facebook group. I mean this. I know it's going to take courage to reveal yourself, but or maybe not. Maybe you're totally down with this. Jump into the Facebook group. There's already a few of us, and I'm one of them who's on a temporary hiatus. And I plan on I think I have another 45 days of this. So I'll be there for a while. Jump into the Facebook group, put a post down, make a declaration, say, I'm doing this. Who else wants to join in for a period of time? And we'll all be on this path together. We'll share the difficulties, we'll share our wins, what we've learned about ourselves, and the experience will go deeper. And then you'll have more life force energy. And then you'll feel more in command of that energy. You'll have better sex with your partner if you've got that situation going on. I'm really passionate about this, guys, because like I said, it changed my life. I'm here talking with you because I decided to take a significant hiatus in my life and redirect that energy to something that helped me to find my fucking purpose in serving men in this world that I'll be doing until the day I die. I would say that's worth a measly little experiment of 7 days or whatever you choose to do. So bring it to the Facebook group. We'll see you there.